Happy Wednesday to all of Houdat Nation, and a special happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well tonight. I hope all of your families are doing spectacular. I am Bob Rose. I am one of your hosts for tonight's Bayou Blitz podcast. Joining me is my partner in crime, Brendan Boylan, and a special friend of ours and a special friend of all of Houdat Nation, Mr. Delvin Breaux. Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
Man, I'm wonderful, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, anytime, man.
Doing good, Bob. Happy to see the both of you. Happy to talk a little bit about some of these things you got going on, Delvin. Obviously, a New Orleans legend. I know anytime that we get you on here, you're on anything Saints related, people immediately want to click on it and hear what you got to say because of just all the great work you've done in New Orleans over the years, on the field, off the field, and talk about off the field stuff. You're doing something really special here in a couple weeks. You got your first annual football camp and mental health awareness camp, which I know is two things that are super near and dear to your heart. What's going on? How can people sign their kids up? And what kind of special guests you got lined up?
Oh, yeah, man. First of all, I appreciate that. Yeah, man, I have a camp coming up. It's my first annual football/mental health awareness camp, February 18th. It's going to be at Jefferson Indoor Sports Facility out in Jefferson Parish. It's something I always want to do. I want to do something a little different. Most people always just do football camps, right? Everybody wants to just do football camps, but I want to do something, different, put a little touch to it, and just talk about mental health, just because it's something we don't really talk about in our community, and it's something that we really need to talk about. We need to share more because more people need to understand that mental health is real, and if we can start with the younger generation by letting them know that mental health is real, that things do happen. It's okay to talk. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have emotions. I think if they see in the older group talking about it, and then I think they'll start to understand more. So I'll say, you know what, how about we just have fun and talk about that, man, just to spread awareness to it. So it was a no-brainer for me. It was crazy is I actually just threw it together, man. I didn't have any planning or anything. I was just like, God, show me something that I can give back to my community. Show me what to do. And as I was driving on the causeway, that's what came to my mind, to throw a football camp and talk about mental health awareness, just because it's not being talked about in the community as much. But I'm doing a lot of other things too, man. I'm all over the place right now. I just want to give back. That's where my time is mainly at now. I'm retired from the game, thankfully. It's just time for me to give back, man. These kids need it, and that's what I'm here for.
And and Delvin, correct me if I'm wrong, but the camp is not only open to boys but girls as well, correct?
Absolutely. It's boys and girls. Absolutely. From ages 5 to 11. We're going to have two sessions, 5 to 11. It's going to be the morning session from 9 to 12. And then we're going to have a second session for kids 12 to 17, just so we can touch both age groups.
That's awesome. And if it takes off like we all certainly hope that it would, do you have any early plans, for I guess expansion, for lack of a better term, to do more of these during the course of the year, or are you just taking it one step and one event at a time?
You know what? My plan and my goal is to have more than one camp. But I just want to take it one event at a time, man. I have a lot of things going for myself as far as telling my story and trying to get that out on a big screen. I want to work in the cannabis industry. I've been talking with some great people, so hopefully I can get more involved in that as well, to start doing a more educational program for our Black and Brown communities as well with cannabis. So I'm doing some great things with that. And man, we just, I'm just doing a lot of great things, man, especially giving back to the kids. They need it. They need it more than ever now,
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bob, you're a former coach, and what's really interesting, and Delvin brought it up too, is up until maybe the last 5 years, mental health and sports haven't really been talked about hand in hand.
Right.
And Bob, I know you can relate to that from your coaching days. Delvin, you can relate to that from your playing days. Why Delvin, was it so important to intertwine the two things that typically don't get intertwined? Obviously, you've talked about mental health in your book. You've talked about mental health on podcasts. You've talked about mental health, even with me on mental health podcast. Why was it so important for you to take those two things and intertwine them, especially with the state of where we are as a country and as humanity?
Oh yeah, man. The reason why it was important for me to mesh those two together is because, first of all, football is America's game. You know, everybody loves football. You know, you can unite like that. So to bring everybody together, whether it's black, brown, white, Asian, it don't matter. We're coming together. I want this to be a unity thing. You know, it's one human race. It is what I'm learning throughout my history as I'm growing and getting older. You know, we have to come together. There's no more dividing between this color, this person, that person. Man, forget all that. I want us to be together, man. I want everybody to unite, because that's the only way we can do it. You know, that's the only way we can commute, and the only way we can get together as a community is if we bring each other together, if we host events and do things like that for everybody to be a part of, not just one specific group. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like this is just a great opportunity, and especially to talk about mental health. It doesn't get talked about enough, and they
Right.
have kids who are suicidal, who are going through life with so much trauma and not being able to share it and talk about. You know, I want to be able to be that person that they can go to. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, Delvin Breaux, he played in the league. He's an NFL player. Not just him, but we're going to have multiple guests that have been through things and that affected them with their mental health. And we're going to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have a certified mental health specialist come out there as well. So if
Great.
any kid has questions, anything, man, we have the resources. So, man, do not hesitate to bring your kid out there. We're going to have a great time. It's going to be great resources. Like I said, we're gonna have certified mental health counselors. So come on out and have a great time.
Delvin, have you and yeah, it's kind of the en vogue thing now for for former players to jump into the coaching fray. So it's the obvious question to ask you, if it's something that you've thought about or if it's a goal of yours, but particularly where you're focused on at this stage of your life. Would you have interest in coaching, and if so, would you like to maybe do it at the high school level where you can, you could take advantage, better advantage of your own personal experiences just to get onto the football field?
Yes, absolutely. Man, you know, coaching has always been in my future. Always want to do it, and I always want to do it at the high school level, just because my head coach Wayne Reese, who passed away. You know, just seeing him and how he interacted with the kids, different kids every year. You know, I started high school 2010. I said 2010. I'm sorry, 2005. I graduated 2007. So seeing my head coach Wayne Reese and how he was dealing with different sorts of kids, how he was, you know, just being around there, you know, when kids didn't have things, how Coach Reese was there for those kids, man. And that's something I always said I wanted to do. I always wanted to be just like Coach Reese. You know, I wanted to get involved in coaching, be around those kids to where I can reach the kids early before they even get to real life, before they even get to college. You know, I could be able to help those kids out, especially with my experience and knowledge through life. I can help those guys to navigate themselves as well. So that's why I want to coach. You know, just so I can be there for the kids, man.
That's awesome.
Delvin, we're talking a lot about things coming up in your future, but I do want to reflect on a long time in the league between the NFL and the CFL. You spent your final CFL season out with the BC Lions after spending a handful of years with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. If you just had to promote the Canadian Football League to people here in the States that are not as familiar about it, why is the league so good? Why is it continuing to grow? And how could you advocate for the league for people here in the States to watch?
Yes, man. You know what? The CFL is a great game, man. I have nothing but great things to say about it. You know, from the organizations until the rules of the game. You know, it's very different, but it's unique. And how they do things up in the Canadian Football League. And the reason why, let me sell it. it's a high scoring, like it's very high scoring up there. You have guys coming in high motion at you. It's kind of like the mixture of arena football and NFL football mixed together. You know, you have guys coming at you full speed. So imagine Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that fast have a 10-yard head start. He's coming at you, and you're a DB in your back pedal still. You know, that's exciting for fans to see. You know, guys scoring 30, 40 points a game. You know, people want to see that. Fans want to see excitement, you know. So I think it's exciting. People need to start paying attention more just because you have great talent up there. You know, just because guys get overlooked in the NFL, man, you have those guys go overseas and they really make household names of themselves. So, man, tap in to just watch a game. You know, you just see the excitement for a chance. You know, it's high scoring. You have great ballers out there, so it's not like you're just going to be watching mediocre football. You have guys that really have NFL talent that just got overlooked. So, yeah, just, you know, don't hesitate. Just give it a shot.
Delvin, I couldn't agree more about the CFL. I watched you play a lot in the CFL. I agree with you that it's an exciting game. I worry that the return of the XFL and the renewal of the USFL is going to push the Canadian Football League back a little bit. Hey, all three of us here are rooting for anybody that straps on that helmet to make it big, make your dreams come true. But like you said, the CFL is kind of forgotten anyway. And now that now you have the USFL and XFL to deal with on top of that. So we do need to promote that league up north a lot better than what we're doing. But in your case, what prompted the decision to finally step away again, to say, okay, Delvin Breaux is moving on and opening the next chapter of his life?
You know what, man? What made me say I'm gonna move on to my next chapter in my life? I want to say after the season, during the season, when I was playing for the BC Lions, I had an injury to my rib that just could never shake back. Normally, I would shake back from injuries, and I'm like, man, this thing is still nagging. And I was just like, man, maybe that's God telling me to just, like, hey, bro, calm down. You done enough. You didn't play this game at the highest level. You didn't show everybody what you can do from a broken neck, man. You came back from a broken neck. Jesus Christ, that's enough. Like, come on. Like, how much do you want to, continue to keep suffering to your body? So I was just like, during the season, I was like, man, you know what? Maybe this is it for me. Maybe I should just, just enjoy the ride, enjoy Vancouver. Support my teammates as much as I can, because I didn't play after week 10 just because of the nagging of the ribs. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna just support and just be the best cheerleader I can be for my teammates. And then once the season over with, just go ahead on and wrap it up, man. I done everything. I don't need to showcase anymore, man. I was the top. I'm still a top DB in the CFL. That's always going to be forever set in stone up there, man. So it's just time for me to move on. I have a lot of other great things that are ready for me in my next chapters, like telling my story, getting involved in cannabis, spreading the message about the cannabis plant, and sharing my story. Want these kids to understand that no matter what you go through, you can make it, and getting in, like I said, get involved in coaching. So in order for me to continue to keep opening those doors, I have to shut the doors behind me. And it's it, man. I'm done,
Well, to your point, Delvin, being one of the best, even at this point, ever in Canadian football history, we can't forget you were part of the all-decade team up there in the CFL.
Yeah.
As one of the best corners, actually the best corner of the 2010s. Talking about what you want to do in the future with the long list of things you got, how much of that is going to be in Canada, and how much do you want to get back up there and kind of plant some seeds in a place that really took you in and made you one of their own for a long time?
Yeah, man. My plans to get back to Canada, I want to be back out there quite often, man. I'm gonna get some business going out there as far as doing football camps out there in the future. I see myself doing that out there, just giving back my time out there in Canada as well, just because they took me in with open arms, man, and they showed me a lot of great love while I was out there. So I definitely want to be passing out there doing football camps either in Vancouver or whether it's in, Hamilton, Ontario, man. And also I want to get involved in the cannabis space. I have some great things, some great news that we're working on right now. Guys say the same, we can continue to keep pushing this. It's going to be some great things out there in a cannabis venture in Canada for me, man. So I'm just, praying that everything, goes smooth. We in, I want to say, the beginning stages of doing some great things in the cannabis market out there in Canada. So I ain't gonna say too much. I'm just excited. Yeah, and I'm ready to give back to Canada as well, man. Like I said, that's a second home, and yeah, I'm very excited for this.
Well, hey, Delvin, you know both Brendan and I pretty well. When you're ready for that next promotion, all you need to do, I mean, you're a member of the family. All you need to do is shout, and we'll get you back on the air so we can help you promote that. You know that, I think. But you've talked about your story. You've touched on it a little bit tonight. A couple of times. And folks, if you don't know the Delvin Breaux story, first of all, you're missing a great read. And it's a lot more than just about Delvin Breaux, the football player. It's about Delvin Breaux, the human being. What he had to go through, what you had to go through, just to get onto the football field, and what you've had to, fight through, through every aspect of your life. But there's one thing that I want to ask you about, regarding the book. And to be fair, there was a lot of people that you didn't name by name, but Coach Sean Payton was not named specific. Yeah, you referred to him a lot as the head coach, and you did so. Very respect. There was nothing disrespectful about it. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about your relationship with Coach Payton?
Yeah, man, absolutely. My relationship with Sean Payton right now, I would say I don't have one, but the way it ended, just around the same facility, it was kind of crazy. But for the most part, it was business, man. I forgave him. I forgave the situation of what happened as far as the doctors and stuff misdiagnosing my leg and everything. And that's not even the point. My point is the meetings me and Coach Payton was having behind closed doors. That's where it was sour for me, man, because he knew those conversations we were having at the Hilton Hotel or in his office. You know what I'm saying? Those private one-on-one conversations and the things that he was telling me, man. He never really just sincerely apologized. And man, to be honest with you, I could care less now because I forgave him, but I would never forgive the situation. But as far as our relationship, man, I just want Coach to do well. You know what I'm saying? There's no hate in my blood, man. I want to see him do well. I see him went to Denver. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy because I had a contract, with Denver.
Yes.
Right after I left the Saints, and now all of a sudden he's the head coach over there now. So it's whatever. Listen, I love it. I want to see him do well. I want to see the team do well. And I want to see him do well moving forward, man. So there's no bad blood on this end. Like I said, I love him. I want him to do well, and like I said, God's just going to handle the rest.
Talking about former coaches of yours that you have relationships with, you got to play for DA for a couple years down in New Orleans, and obviously he has success with the team as the defensive coordinator for all those years, gets promoted to head coach, and there's a lot of the Who Dat Nation that is on the fence with Dennis Allen. What was your relationship
on the fence? Come on, Brendan.
Come on, guys. I'm trying to be nice about it. All right, Bob. You see the comments we get every week, just like anybody else.
I do. That's why you're on the fence. There's no fence, man. It's blown up.
But Delvin, what was your relationship like with DA, and what are some qualities of DA that you thought, hey, this guy could end up being a really good head coach if he gets another chance?
Oh man, you know what? DA is cool. I've never had an issue with DA. Besides just certain, some of the things that DA says, man, it's kind of, you just, you question it. But, he was great, man. Great defense coordinator. That's why I love him. I love him in that role, man. I love him in that defensive coordinator role. When they talked about him becoming a head coach, I was like, look at his track record, man. I think they have better candidates for the job, man. And I was hoping we would have got Eric Bieniemy, you know, but you know how things go. He was the best suited for the job, and we all thought, you know, he was going to change the outcome from what he used to. But no, it's still the same thing, man. It's still the same old Dennis Allen being a head coach, and our defense being a top rank, and the offense just looking like whatever. That's just what he's accustomed to, and we can't have that, man. We need to win. We used to winning, and we need to bring that back, bro. Who that nation is used to winning, man. I love waking up on Mondays, you know, with a victory. You know what I'm saying? So we need to bring that back, and moving forward, I hope Dennis can bring in the right guys and change this thing around, because I believe in him. We just got to give him opportunity to show what he can do. You got to think, this still our team now. This still the Saints. Now we have to root for somebody. If we got to root for them. You know what I'm saying? But I just hope he make different changes and bring in Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr, so I think that'll be pretty sweet. You know. So yeah, I don't know. That's all I got to say about DA. I just want them to change it around, and we got to support him. Just because he's at the position, you got to support who's at the position, whether we like it or not. We just got to rally behind him and support him.
Oh man, that's so well put, and that's the kind of thing we've been trying to tell our fans too. Delvin, you have such a great football mind, and I know, you know, even when you were up in Canada, you kept close tabs on your Saints. What do you see in the development of these young cornerbacks, Paulson and Debo, and then, you know, now this past year, Alontae Taylor? You know, they're both physical players, a lot like old number 40 was for us in New Orleans. But what do you see that you know, are you encouraged for their pro football future?
Absolutely, man. My guy Pat over there getting Paulson and Debo them right, man. I'm excited, man. I love 2727 was balling. Taylor was balling. I just can't wait to see him back out there playing, man, with him and Lattimore. I think those three guys are definitely gonna be a talented group, man, for years to come, man. Lattimore being a captain over there, I know he's going to keep those guys right. Debo, them, as long as they stay physical, that's all they have to do is stay physical, man. And Taylor stay physical, they're going to be dominant, man. So I'm definitely rooting for those guys, and I want to see much success for them.
Delvin, we mentioned it earlier, and the people that don't know or only just know you from your time in New Orleans as a Saint, you're a New Orleans legend, born and raised, going all the way back to McDonough 35. So yesterday was the anniversary of the Saints winning the Super Bowl. So I have to ask you, what are your memories of that day? Where were you? And how excited were you to see your hometown team finally hoist the Lombardi?
Yes, man. I was, you know, that day meant a lot to me when the Saints won the Super Bowl, man, that day. I was actually in Baton Rouge at my apartment complex, and, you know, and I would always say it was Burbank Commons. I was at Burbank Commons in Baton Rouge, and the Saints won the Super Bowl, bro. I was just so happy, man. I was like, bro, this is something the city needed. Like, it was something that it was refreshing. Just because we know, right, we won a Super Bowl, that's going to bring people together, man. That's we're going to want to make the city better just because of winning. Winning feels good, and that's what we're used to. So them boys winning that thing, man, oh my God, it was just like a dream come true for us. I was a little kid. What they say when they had bags over their head. My mom used to talk about, they used to have like bags and stuff over their head. So I'm like, bro, from going from that to winning a Super Bowl, man, that's amazing, man. Like, and then Tebow, man, like I still like seeing Thomas Morstead kick that, bro. That was so cool, bro. Like at the moment, like, cause nobody expected it, and then they come out with the onside kick, we recovered, but that was like, man, we actually have a chance to win this thing, man. So you know, it was just exciting, man. College kid, I don't know. Let's go. We need another one. We need to bring another one back, man, for sure.
Yeah, we do, because this city, this community would just absolutely embrace that team. You know, it embraces the franchise anyway, like you said. But you know, fast forward a couple years, and you know, when you donned the New Orleans uniform, those teams, as everybody knows, you know, great offense. I mean, historical offensive performances with Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, all those guys. You know, defensively as a unit, you struggled mightily. obviously you had yourself, Cam, but not a lot of talent around you guys. Was that frustrating as an individual, or did that just cause you to, just want to make your job, want to make you do your job that much harder, and support and try to coach up these younger guys on the field?
Well, you know what, man? During my time there, yeah, we were 7-9, but for those 2 years, and then in 2017, I think that's when we turned it up a little
Yeah.
bit. That's when we got Alvin Kamara and Marshall on them, I believe, in 2017. But the 2015 and 16 team, man, you know what? It didn't really matter to me, man. I was just still so stoked that I made it to the NFL, man, from my story. So I didn't care what was going on. I was just like, I need to show out for my city. Delvin Breaux, I'm going to do what I have to do because I know the city is rooting for me. I know everybody is looking at me regardless of what the record is. Yeah, we want to win every game, but I just knew how everybody was going to look at me whenever I stepped foot back in my community. So I was just like, I got a ball regardless, man. Like this is an opportunity for me to showcase my talent, to show the world what they've been missing on for so long. So yes, it was frustrating, that we were losing. Things weren't, on the same page. Everybody, we had the firing of Rob Ryan mid-season, bringing in Dennis Allen. So it was just a lot of moving parts until we figured out in 2017 our identity,
Mhm.
and obviously I wasn't a part of that because of my broken leg and a misdiagnosis. But it was rough, but for me, man, I didn't look at the roughness. I didn't look at the 7-9. I didn't look at the fact that we were. I didn't look at that. I was just so happy that I was there, bro. Like I was just in the moment. I mean, if we could have went to the Super Bowl, if we would have been 0-13 or 0-18, I didn't care. I did not care. I was just excited. I was like, bro, I'm here. I made it. Like, man, regardless, nothing could be taken away from me. Nothing can stop me. I don't, it's whatever. Let's just win games. Let's have fun with the moment. Let's enjoy the moments. That's what it was more so for me about, man. I hope I answered your question.
No, you did. Thank you. As eloquently as I would expect.
You had a lot of great moments in your career, Delvin,
Yeah.
both in New Orleans and obviously the CFL. I want to highlight a couple because you just talked about moments, living in the moment, and now being able to step back and look back. Which of these three would you put as your top moments? I look back at the 15 season, and everybody knows the Delvin Breaux game of shutting down Julio Jones on national television. But that year, you also picked off the quarterback that would end up winning MVP of the league in Cam Newton. Those are two that really stick out in 15. But then people forget in Canada, you had an interception in the Grey Cup and essentially their Super Bowl. So of those three moments, could you rank them from first to third?
Oh my God. Man,
That's a good
tough,
question.
man. That is tough, man. Oh man. Um, well, I definitely want to give the pick in a Grey Cup game number one. The reason why is because it was a pivotal moment in that game to where we needed a turnover. It was like, man, coach said, hey, somebody got to get us a turn. We got to get a turnover coming up so we can change the momentum, because Calgary was having a momentum in Vancouver, actually. That's what we played the Grey Cup game. And we came out that second half, and man, Bo Levi threw that sail route. I saw it coming. We was in cover two. We was in purple. So I was like, oh, this is cool. I'm like, man, this is it. He threw the ball up, made the play in the Grey Cup, in the Super Bowl, man. That was an incredible moment, incredible feeling, because it's like my coach said somebody needed to make a play, and God put that light on me, and man, I made the play. But we came up short of winning the Grey Cup that year, but that play right there was the pivotal game-changing momentum play for us to rally back for sure. So that's number one. Number two, of course, Julio Jones, shutting down Julio Jones. That's definitely, at the top. That Julio was a beast, man. It was hard to prepare for him just because, you didn't know what you was going to get from him. He can block, he can run routes, he can catch. Man, he never takes a play off. He was just a dominant force. So I would
He a
definitely
talker? Was he a talker?
No, man, Julio didn't tell me nothing. I'm not surprised because I know if you're a beast, you don't have to talk. Your numbers speak for itself, your stats speak. So, he didn't say anything, man. He didn't say anything. Like not even what's up, bro? Nothing, man. He was just quiet, just going about his business, man. So I would say that, and then number 3 would be picking off Cam Newton during this MVP season. That definitely was a phenomenal opportunity as well.
Well, Devin, we're running out of time, and I know you got places to go, people to see, different ventures to go out into. We've talked about it all night, but I wanted to give you a moment to, one, again, promote the camp you got going on. 2, promote this wonderful book that is now almost 2 years old, which blows my mind. It feels like yesterday when it released. And also where people can follow you for all these future endeavors that you got going on. I know you'll be back on the show at some point, but until then, where can people check out everything you got going on?
Man, for sure. Yes. So make sure y'all check out the camp February 18th. Pre-registration is now. We have registration is going to be February 18th, 6125 on Jefferson Highway. It's going to be at Jefferson Indoor Sports facility out in Jefferson Parish. So make sure you guys come check it out. It's from ages 5 to 17. So make sure you get your kids out there. It's not just a normal football camp. We're going to be talking about mental health awareness as well. We have to spread more messages about that in our community, bring that around, break the stigma about that. We're going to have different NFL guests. I know you guys heard of the Beard Man, Michael Lewis. He's going to be making an appearance. So we're going to be having some great other NFL players talking about their stories, talking about mental health. And how it, oh yeah, there we go. Follow me on Instagram, and I'm gonna have a links coming up. Make sure y'all go check UnBreauxKen. It's what I want to say 3. Going 3, it's been phenomenal numbers and sales. Been giving me great reviews, so make sure you guys go check it out. It's on Amazon, and you can go to Barnes and Nobles. Or you could go on walltarget.com to make sure you get the book. It's a great read, phenomenal read. Man, yeah, just enjoy it. It's UnBreauxKen. Yeah, I appreciate the support. Who that?
Oh, who dat? Thank you, my friend Delvin. God bless you. I love talking football with you. I know we could talk all night. This is an open invitation. You jump on with us whenever you want from here on out.
Man, absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Delvin.
Thank you.
Always good to see our friend Delvin Breaux. I know we had a little bit of a technical issue there, but like you said, you can pick up UnBreauxKen. You can pick it up on Amazon. You can pick it up on Walmart, local Barnes and Noble. I mean, the book's everywhere. It's actually an international bestseller on Amazon. And obviously with the great playing career he had in Canada, that should have no surprise to anybody. Any information you guys need on the camp or the book, just check out our social media platforms. We have retweeted most of that. So, Bob, like I said, always great to have Delvin on. Great football mind, and can't wait to see what he's got going on, not just with the football side of it, not just with the storytelling side of it, the cannabis side of it as well. He's got a lot of big things coming up.
Yeah. I mean, he was a terrific football player, but he's an equally terrific person. I'm so. It's bittersweet to see him step away from the game of football as a player, because he was so fun to watch. Whether it was in a Saints uniform or not. But I'm so happy to see him excited to open this next chapter of his life. If you know anything about, if you know Delvin Breaux at all, or you know anything about his story, he is going to attack all these projects head on and be wonderful successes. And the fact that he's going to be, he's going to take the bull by the horns and be play such an instrumental role, in the development of youngsters, whether it's stays in the New Orleans area or whether he does go back up to Canada or anywhere else. I know he's going to be a tremendous success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about some current Saints and what's going on. I know you have a full legal pad full of notes of
Yeah,
what's
I
going
got
on.
my coach's scorecard here. I think I'm all caught up to date.
Yeah, it's been a lot. It has been a lot this week in terms of rumors, hires, Bob, I'll let you just jump right into it. New Orleans Saints have a new defensive coordinator.
Mhm.
And have seen some faces go over the last couple weeks. They also had a very special guest fly in who was in town this evening. So briefly, and we'll touch on all of them. What's been going on in the world of the New Orleans Saints?
The most recent news from a player aspect, has been as you alluded to. Derek Carr was in town today to speak with Dennis Allen and the New Orleans Saints front office and coaching staff. Now he was granted permission to speak from the Las Vegas Raiders, mainly because the Saints, at least in theory, have met whatever criteria that the Raiders are asking for Derek Carr. And we don't know what that officially is. There's rumors circulating that they're looking for a third-round pick. But so far, the Saints have been the only team, that's shown interest, at least publicly, in trading for Derek Carr. Now, the key to this whole situation is this. If Derek Carr is still a member of the Las Vegas Raiders by February 15th, then $40 million of his salary or salary cap hit will then kick in. So, in other words, the Vegas Raiders have to make a decision on Derek Carr by February 15th, whether it's to trade him or release him. And Alan and Ulrich and I talked a little bit about this last night. Why? And we are getting a lot of fans asking us, why wouldn't the Saints wait for the Raiders to release Derek Carr, and then negotiate their own contract with him? Well, here's the thing: if you wait to do that, another team could swoop in and offer the Raiders whatever they want, to trade for him, and boom, the Saints have lost an opportunity to grab a quality starting quarterback. I hesitate calling him a franchise quarterback, but I think we can all agree that he's an upgrade over what they had last year, and he's a proven starter in this league. So that's why the Saints are at least kicking the tires. This is not to say that they've 100% agreed to whatever the trade compensation is. This is not to say that they are going to trade for Derek Carr. This is just a step in that direction.
There were some reports, and Bob and I say it every week, and I'm going to grab my microphone and come closer so you guys hear me. Be careful who you follow. Be careful what news you decide to take as 100%, because there were some rumors swirling that the Saints have already agreed to compensation for Derek Carr. That's not true.
No.
That is not true. Just be careful who you follow. You said you're hesitant to use the word franchise quarterback. That's fine. I'm completely with you on that. But I think Derek Carr is an above average quarterback in the league.
I agree.
He's a Pro Bowler in this league. It feels like a long time ago, and it feels like yesterday, that if Derek Carr didn't break his leg, the Raiders were going to have a real shot at representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think it was 2016, 17, one of those 2 years.
Somewhere in there. So it feels like forever ago, but it really wasn't. But Carr is a talent, much better. Like Bob said, an upgrade over what the Saints had this past season. And I got to give them props for doing their due diligence and doing homework and trying to upgrade an offense that was terrible last season. But yes, Derek Carr is in town, but like Bob said, nothing's been agreed to, nothing's in stone. But as a lot of you guys have heard, I'm sure that the reporting from Saints News has been right on point with it, is that this is the one landing spot for Carr where it seems everyone in the media is in agreement. It makes the most sense. And it's the one that has probably the highest probability of actually happening. Now, if that's through trade, release, what have you, we'll see. But this is just one step in what could end up being a multi-step process to get Carr to New Orleans. I do also find it interesting. His brother tweeted out a photoshopped picture of Derek Carr in a New Orleans uniform. Not David Carr, not the former number 1 overall pick, but another brother. I had to shout out a former number 1 overall pick, regardless of how his career went, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
And in David's defense, though, I don't know if you could, even if Peyton Manning was the quarterback for those Texans teams, I don't even think Peyton Manning or Drew Brees could have done anything with those teams. They were terrible. I don't think it's a true reflection on David Carr's NFL career. He could have got into a much better situation and probably end up having a pretty good NFL career. But what you gonna do? It's all about the situations, right?
Yeah.
And talking about situations, the New Orleans Saints had a really weird situation with co-defensive coordinators a year ago, and because of that, they've now lost both of them. And have hired a new defensive coordinator. Bob, what do we know about the new defensive coordinator? I know he has some ties with Dennis Allen, but what do you have on the newest defensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints?
Hey, well, listen, Joe Woods, in my opinion, is a good defensive mind. His major area of biggest area of expertise that he has is the defensive backfield. I know they just hired Marcus Robertson today too, the safeties coach from Arizona the previous 3 years. So that's a big hire too. We'll get to Robertson in a minute. Woods most recently, and for the last 3 years, the defensive coordinator of the Cleveland Browns. For all 3 years that Woods was with the Browns, Cleveland had one of the higher ranking pass defenses in the league. Now, last year, their run defense was atrocious. It's an interesting hire from that perspective, because where was the Saints' biggest area of concern on defense last year? Against the run. But here's the one thing that won't change, folks. Dennis Allen is still going to be the game day play caller. Dennis Allen is still going to make the game day decisions. So whomever was going to be taking that defensive coordinator role had to be accepting of this. And I think that's why we were hearing that Chris Richard and the organization parted ways because of philosophical differences. That's the philosophical difference, folks. Richard wanted a little bit more control over what happened with the defense on the game, on the day of the game, and that isn't going to happen when Dennis Allen is your head coach. And they had previously lost Ryan Nielsen to the Atlanta Falcons because of the co-coordinator stuff. That opened the door for both Richard and Nielsen to be poached by other teams as defensive coordinators, because it's technically considered a promotional role. But Woods has been a defensive coordinator in this league before. Woods has worked with Dennis Allen before. He was on Allen's defensive staff with the Oakland Raiders way back in 2014. As was Marcus Robertson, the new defensive backs coach. Now, if you're an experienced NFL fan like myself, you might remember Marcus Robertson as a player. He was an absolute thumper as a safety for the Houston Oilers, then Tennessee Titans, before finishing his career with the Seahawks. He played 11 or 12 years in the league. Had a very solid career as a defensive backs coach. He wants his players to be very physical and very aggressive, downhill defenders. The thing that sticks out in watching Marcus Robertson is that during his time with Arizona, Budda Baker developed into one of the more highly respected safeties in the game. So that's something to watch. And then also defensively, they hired Todd Grantham. Grantham is a highly respected college defensive coach. They haven't specified what Grantham's role is going to be, but at most other places he has been in charge of the defensive line. And that's an area that the Saints defensive coaching staff needs, because that was the area that Ryan Nielsen was most famously in charge for. So I think that gets us caught up to date on the defensive hirings.
Well, I'll ask you this, Bob, because the one theme here, and it reminds me a lot of college coaching staffs, actually, is when you have a college staff that lets go of one head coach, it takes a year or two for two things to happen. One, the college coach to get his staff or her staff. And then it also takes a year to get your players in, right? Guys off scholarship that were not yours. And you look at Dennis Allen going into year two, and there's a couple players that are not going to be back or do not appear to be coming back to New Orleans that just didn't seem like Dennis Allen type of guys. I mean, the most notable, Jameis Winston, not a Dennis Allen type of guy. And then you look at the coaching staff and some changes have been made. And what does Diego do? Well, he doesn't just go get his guys. He gets guys that worked with him on his previous staff out in Oakland. And so my question to you is this: you've coached the high school level. You've done plenty of work over the years dealing with different coaching staffs. I have as well, more particularly on the college level. And so I'm saying that this is a lot of similarities. This is bringing back a little bit of a little bit of almost PTSD. You're like, I've seen this story play out way too many times. But nonetheless, do you have any concerns over this? Particularly because Dennis Allen, yes, is bringing in his guys, but he's bringing in guys from a staff that was very unsuccessful in Oakland.
Yeah, and that's where my concern lies. But I'm trying to approach this myself from two ways. Number one, look at the individual coaches. Marcus Robertson, he's an up and coming name. There's no question about it. Joe Woods has had success pretty much everywhere he has been except Oakland. And the new tight ends coach that the Saints hired about an hour or two before we came on the air, Clancy Barone. Clancy actually coached with Dennis Allen at Texas A&M, coached with Dennis Allen with the Denver Broncos for 1 year in 2011. So there's another guy that he's familiar with. But Barone has been very successful wherever he has been too. So, let's try to focus on that, number one. And number two, I get the frustration, folks. And Ryan Nielsen, Chris Richard, Corey Robinson, those are all fine coaches. But I do think that Dennis Allen has the right to, if he's gonna be in charge of a sinking ship, and nobody's saying that this is, but if he's going to be in charge of a sinking ship or hitch his job security to a certain coaching staff, then I think it's absolutely fair that Dennis Allen at least has a say-so in who is going to be on that ship or who he's hitching his wagon to. And obviously, it's going to be you want there to be some familiar aspects with who you're bringing in. I mean, we're seeing the same thing happen with Sean Payton, in Denver. We see it happen throughout the league all the time. At Bill Parcells, we'll go back to Bill Parcells. Everywhere Bill Parcells went, he would always have the same core of guys, players and coaches follow him wherever he goes. So, I mean, this is not uncommon whatsoever. So I understand the concern, but let's focus on the individual successes that these newly hired coaches have had, and hope that they have that kind of success again. Because frankly, Dennis Allen's job and the immediate short-term success of the New Orleans Saints absolutely depends on it.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up about if you're going down with a sinking ship, it might as well be your crew and not somebody else's. The thing with Dennis that's going to be really interesting this year is a lot of us in the media a year ago thought he was going to be in the hot seat, but he was going to be coming back regardless. And interestingly enough, it didn't even seem like he was in the hot seat because it was almost immediate. Yes, he's coming back. There was no time to have to sweat in that seat. This year is going to be a lot different because now this year there's no excuses. Last year you could come up with excuses. You could say, well, I had injuries. I didn't have my quarterback. I didn't have my this. I didn't have my that. Well, now that leash is getting a little shorter for DA because now you have your coaches, you have your guys surrounding you.
Yep. You could make a move for Derek Carr, who you drafted with the Oakland Raiders in 2014.
I was hesitant to say you have your quarterback because he doesn't yet, but you're making progress and potentially getting your quarterback. And like Bob alluded to, very literally your quarterback because you drafted him. There's not going to be any excuses for DA. So, and Bob and I have both said it multiple times, and for you that have listened over the last now almost 30 episodes of the show that we've done together, how many times have we said you got to give coaches 3 years? Dennis Allen's going to get about 3 years. With all the changes that have happened over the last month, I now see that window being 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this goes down in flames, it doesn't even have to go down in flames, Bob. If this team, with the talent of the roster today, I still think is a talented roster. I think it is and with everything that's happened in Tampa, this is a team that could win the NFC South, right? We're both in agreement there.
Absolutely.
If this team doesn't at least compete for the NFC South, compete for a wild card spot, I think it's over. And if the offense is anywhere near as bad as they were a year ago, it's over. Now, a lot of these things can change because if Derek Carr comes in, or if any quarterback comes in, things can change drastically. I mean, look at 05 to 06 for the Saints. A couple of changes, things change drastically. That could be the case again. But you got to be really careful. And what I mean by that is, DA, yes, you're getting everything that you want. And as the head coach, you should.
Mm-hmm.
But be careful what you wish for, because yes, Bob's being the optimist and saying, let's look at the success these guys have had other places. I'll be playing devil's advocate and saying, well, look at the success they had with you. And if you have this success, same amount of lack of success, rather, that you guys had together as a unit back in 2012, 13, and 14, you're not going to be here really long. Now, Dennis is putting his faith in his guys, and all props to him. Regardless of how bad it's been, that's how it's going to be. For my video game people out there, whether whether it's Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever, regardless of how bad your team was in the last match, you're still running it back with your squad, right? That's putting faith in your guys. That's what DA's doing.
Yeah.
But if you go however many Warzone matches or Fortnite matches without a win, you guys eventually log off and call it a night, right? It's going to be the same way for DA.
Yeah, and that's the thing to keep in mind here. There's a lot of defensive coaches for what has been a very, very good defense now gone. So you've revamped that side of the football. What if they regress? An offense that have been absolutely putrid for 2 years for multiple reasons, but still putrid. You decided to keep the offensive coordinator. Dennis Allen decided to keep the offensive coordinator, and thus far, most of the offensive staff. And now and this is a big if because it hasn't happened yet. If you get your whatever quarterback you want, whether it's Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo, you draft one, you handpick one in the draft. If you get the quarterback that you want, and the offense still has not shown any improvement, then you have to blow this whole thing up. And that's exactly what we're looking at right now. It's the literal definition of do or die.
Yeah, it's not a ticking time bomb, but it's almost like a game of roulette. You don't know where it's going to land. And, if you put your money on red, it lands on red, great. But if it goes the other way, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
Bob used a very, common phrase. I decided to go to the casino and use a phrase, but
no, I mean, I like the casino, to use your analogy of a ticking time bomb. I mean, we're sitting at like 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Dennis Allen is sitting with like 2 seconds left. Do you cut the red wire or the blue wire? It's literally, what is going to happen if you cut the wrong wire.
And that's where and as weird as that sounds, because we're so early in the offseason.
I know.
We're so early in the offseason. We haven't even played the Super Bowl yet. And we're already sitting here and saying, well, the next couple decisions are going to make or break the franchise. Not forever, but for a period.
Yeah, it could easily set the franchise back a couple of more years.
Right, and it's not a complete rebuild. See, and this is the weird thing, Bob, because I'm going through it here in Charlotte for basketball too. is it's not a complete rebuild, but you have a off season where you either go one way or the other, and for New Orleans, you're about to hit that off season. It's like the most important off season in the last 2 decades for the franchise. To where for my basketball team that I root for, it was the same thing last season. And some things were out of their control, and some things are going to be out of control for New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
But this is pivotal.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a home run, right, Bob? You want to put baseball terms into this? It doesn't have to be a home run. You just got to get on base.
Yep.
You don't even have to get a hit. You could take the 4-pitch walk. I don't care. But the last thing you can do is strike out, pop out, fly out, whatever. Yeah. You just have to get on base. And that's the concerning part, because looking at, and this is, again, we're so early in the offseason, this might sound silly, but you're behind in the count already.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scary part. You're already behind in the count.
Yeah, and by that, I assume you mean because Dennis Allen has failed as a head coach so far, not only other places, but here. That's strike one. And you can say strike two. You're bringing in guys that you failed with before, so you could say strike two. Is strike three. Unfortunately, we won't know whether it's going to be a strike three or not until the 2023 season commences, because they're going to, and everybody on Saints social media, especially Facebook, you're going to think and right now everybody's saying there is no way that this is going to be able to be successful. You don't know. We don't even
know who's playing quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's start there.
And that was the other thing. I'm hesitant to say strike two because we don't know. Like, that is like that's part fair. Of the strike. It's like half of a strike. We don't know who's playing quarterback. But then the other half of that, other half of that pitch is like, well, we don't know who's playing quarterback. So it's like a curveball on the outside. We don't really know. Is it a strike? Is it a ball? We're just going to pause for a little bit and stare at it. But that's kind of where we're at. And it's a pivotal offseason. And I don't want to make that sound more dramatic than it needs to be, because you can look back at some of the latter years with Drew and say some of those were the most pivotal off seasons. Yeah, there were pivotal off seasons for the championship window.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those years, I thought the off season went really well.
Mm-hmm.
And the Saints did what they need to do. This is a pivotal off season on, are the Saints still going to be NFC South contenders, or are they going to rip it down, to the nails and start over? That's what this offseason is going to dictate.
Yep.
And then you could always have an offseason that looks really good or an offseason that looks really bad, and then you go, I was going to say 9-7. You can't go 9-7 anymore. 9-8. I'm going to be doing that for years, Bob. You have no idea.
Me too.
You could go 9-8 next year, and then you're confused and you don't know what to do. And then you go into the next offseason saying, well, now it's the pivotal offseason because now you have to decide whether you blow it up or not. But for right now, this is the most pivotal. I can't do quick math. Pivotal 4-month stretch the Saints are going to have for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, let's talk about Super Bowl predictions, and then talk to you guys next week after that. But interesting Super Bowl matchup for you guys that are going to just be cheering based off guys who have more former Saints. You're probably cheering for Philadelphia.
Yeah, unless you're a big Michael Burton fan.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say, I'm thinking right off the top of my head, right? You have Boston Scott, Gardner Johnson, Ian Book. Am I forgetting anybody? Those are the three right off the top of my head.
I feel like we're missing one. Gardner Johnson is the big one.
What do you mean? Ian Book started a game for the Saints, Bob. What are you talking about? New Orleans Saints starting quarterback.
That's going to be a footnote in history forever.
Oh, I know. It's going to be the really random one. Is
Yeah.
not as dramatic, but like the Cleveland Browns jersey of starting quarterbacks has like one name that started one game. It's Connor Shaw, by the way. I went to high school with Connor. Just fun fact. It's going to be Ian
went to
Book.
Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken.
South Carolina.
Okay. I'm thinking of the wrong guy. Then I apologize. Wow, I never get these wrong.
Yeah, winningest quarterback in South Carolina history was 17-0 at home in his college career.
Nice.
Which is just unbelievable for a South Carolina team that won absolutely nothing. But anyway, but no, Ian Book's going to be on that list. It's like, okay, let's name all the quarterbacks in Saints history, or all the quarterbacks after Drew Brees. Nobody's going to go. Ian Book started a Monday Night Football game against Miami. But yeah, it's going to be a weird footnote in history. Yeah. But yeah, you're probably rooting for the Eagles. For me, it's really hard to pick against Kansas City. It's really hard to pick against Mahomes. But this is a really good defense.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to talk about a formula for stopping. And you guys can stop me if you've heard this before, because we used to say this about the Saints teams that used to, score 40 points a game. How do you stop a really dominant quarterback and a really dominant offense? You play good defense, you run the football. That's exactly what Philadelphia does.
Mm-hmm.
If there's going to be any team that's going to be able to stop Patrick Mahomes and that high-flying offense, which, by the way, who would have thought they'd be this high-flying without Tyreek Hill? It's another footnote for later in history. They go to the Super Bowl after trading away arguably their best receiving threat. I think it's Philly. Philly has you could really call it a four-headed monster on the ground. When you talk about Hurts, you talk about Sanders, Gainwell, and Boston Scott.
Yeah.
They have no slouches at receiver with Smith and Brown. They have a very underrated tight end.
Yep.
That's just their offense.
Yep.
But then their defense is phenomenal all across the board. And I don't think Kansas City is as strong as they've been. And what I mean by that is this, Bob, I know you'll agree with me, is when you have dynasties or borderline dynasties, or teams that go to back-to-back Super Bowls or go to however many years, yeah, the big names don't ever seem to change because they get locked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like the New England dynasty, Brady was always there. Gronk was there. Those guys got locked up. You look at Kansas City, and they're like borderline dynasty right now, or dominance might be a better word. Mahomes is there. He got locked up. Kelsey's there. He got locked up. But the more important part of both those are the role players that come in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start winning games and you win championships and you're successful, those role players don't get paid like role players anymore because they're in the spotlight. And I look at Kansas City and I see the guys that have came and left, and that gets concerning. Oh, that guy was really pivotal. I'm not just talking about the Tyreek Hills of the world, but you go throughout their whole roster. One of them is a New Orleans Saint. I don't know if Tyrann Mathieu would be super pivotal to this game upcoming, but you want to talk about leadership being there,
mm-hmm.
being a veteran presence. You start losing guys like that, and you go, wait a minute. I don't know half this roster. That's when it gets concerning, and that's when I'm going to go and for once pick against Mahomes and say, hey, Philly, a team that could not sniff a Super Bowl victory for a long time, are going to get, 2 in a 5-year span? Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah.
That's my prediction.
With a different head coach and a different quarterback.
Crazy, right?
That's impressive. I grew up, my formative years, as far as a football fan goes, we're through the 80s and 90s, when year after year after year was a Super Bowl blowout. Even when you didn't expect it to be a blowout, it was a blowout. And on paper, this game has a chance to be that kind of blowout. Now, we're talking Goodell's world. He's just not. I don't see him and his officials letting that happen. He has, if you buy into the conspiracy theories, he has the matchup he wants. Andy Reid versus his former team, Golden Boy Mahomes back in the Super Bowl. Kelsey versus Kelsey, brother versus brother matchup. But let's stay on the field for argument's sake. I agree with everything that you said about Philadelphia's defense. It was all year long, without a doubt, the second best defense in the National Football League, behind only San Francisco. And Philadelphia has everything that you need to beat a Patrick Mahomes offense. They apply unbelievable pressure on the quarterback, and they do so from so many different players. It'd be one thing if you only had to shut down one or two rushers, but they have four guys that have double-digit sacks, two other guys that finished just shy of double digits. I think they had 70 regular season sacks. That's mind-boggling. But they're just as good in the secondary. Darius Slay, one of the best corners in the NFL. James Bradbury has bounced back from a couple of rocky years back to a Pro Bowl caliber player. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we know what a playmaker he can be. I don't think they'll be able to shut down Travis Kelce, mainly because nobody can shut down Travis Kelce. But I do believe that they have the talent in the secondary to contain him and keep him from doing too much damage, and definitely present a big problem for Mahomes' other receiving weapons, none of whom have really, they've all had solid years, but none of whom have really stood out as the replacement for Tyreek Hill, or made you believe that, okay, this is just as good a receiving core without Tyreek Hill. Yeah, none of that has happened. The offenses that have been able to have some success against Philadelphia, like we saw with New Orleans, actually, have been teams that run the football or can run the football. Kansas City ain't doing that, folks. This is all Mahomes. And I realize this offensive line of Kansas City's is not as bad as the one that almost got Mahomes killed against Tampa Bay a couple of Super Bowls ago. But they're not good enough to withstand the Philadelphia pressure. I'm convinced of that. Mahomes, Kelce, they're going to make plays. Reed's offense, they're always going to get their yards and their points. But I don't see a way that Kansas City is going to be able to put up 30+ points against Philadelphia. I just don't. Then meanwhile, on the flip side, Kansas City's defense, they can rush the passer, but to be able to do that against especially against a balanced Philadelphia team. To be able to do that, you need to have your offense jump out to a big lead, and your defense create some early mistakes. So that way you feel it makes Philadelphia feel forced to have to go pass happy. And if that's the case, big advantage Kansas City, because they have a couple of underrated corners and they can get after the passer. What they have problems doing, though, is stopping the run and containing balanced attacks. Philadelphia brings both of those. You mentioned A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. Those guys are all pro caliber players. Then you got Miles Sanders and the dual threat that is Hurts in that backfield. And that's where I think the ultimate key is. Hurts can beat Kansas City by running the ball, but he's going to be just as effective and just as dangerous throwing the football. And that's where I think the biggest difference is. I can't see Kansas City containing Philadelphia well enough to be able to keep Patrick Mahomes in position to win the game late. This game, to my opinion, has the potential to be a blowout. I ultimately think that Philadelphia is just going to win by a couple of scores. I'm going to go 31-17.
Ooh. Yeah. I don't know if I had it being any closer than that myself. For me, everything we talked about, Philly can control the clock, control the game. I did see one thing on TikTok, and I'm just going to share it before we get off here because I thought it was interesting, and it plays back to New Orleans as well. Just a guy, one of the more followed guys on TikTok in terms of sports betting. So he was in a bar this past weekend, and a guy came up mysteriously, tapped him on the shoulder, and just whispered in his ear, "It's an Eagles win and a Boston Scott touchdown," and just walked away. He said before he could stop the guy got lost in the crowd of the bar. But he said, guys, if you're betting this week, whoever this mystery man was, it's a Philadelphia win and a Boston Scott touchdown. So if you guys got parlays and you want to listen to Mystery Man on TikTok.
It's the old smoking man from the old X-Files series.
That's it. Hey, I mean, I'd be up for it. I'm always up for weird things, especially in
Same.
Super Bowls. And hey, Philly did it. Remember the Philly special? So do we get the Philly special too? I don't know, but I'm always down for some interesting things. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in.
Yep.
Another special thank you to I can't even say guest, our friend Delvin Breaux, for hanging out with us for a little bit, talking about what he's got going on, his football career, his books, all that good stuff.
Yeah,
Bob,
can't wait to have you back on, Delvin. You were great as always, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Bob, what's the go-to Super Bowl snack?
For me, it's all over the place now. I think we're just gonna have chips and dip. Play it pretty simple. Early in the day we'll be over at Mom and Dad Rose's. For their world famous lasagna. That is a Rose family tradition. Even
Lasagna
back in the
on
days,
Super Bowl Sunday?
yeah. Even back in the days when I went to Super Bowl parties, I'd go over to Mom and Dad's first, and have their lasagna, and then go to my Super Bowl party. So that part's not going to change. So we'll be over there. I don't know whether we'll watch the game there, come back home and watch it, leave at halftime. We'll play that one by ear, but at least early in the day will be spent with family.
Hey, that's important. That's important. I think I'm just having some friends over hanging out here. In terms of food, I was spoiled like a lot of my life. I drive back down to Georgia to spend the Super Bowl with my folks, and my mom is very famous for making more food than anyone needs. And you would just eat. It's very much like going home for the holidays as a college student, and you come back home with just God knows how much Tupperware of turkey from Thanksgiving and ham from. It's the same thing for the Super Bowl, except you're like, Mom, I don't know what you want me to do with this, because what am I gonna do? Eat like pigs in a blanket for 5 days straight? So I think pigs in a blanket's a pretty big classic. Katie and her family make an incredible like cheese, queso, salsa, ground beef, like dip. It's like a taco salad dip, essentially. It's great. So I'm sure we'll be making that in a crock pot as well. But for all you guys at home, hope you guys have a great Super Bowl Sunday. Bob, I hope you, Lauren, and the kids have a great Super Bowl Sunday as well. And we'll be back next Wednesday for more Bayou Blitz podcast. Make sure that you follow Bob over. I got it stored up here so we can save voices tonight. Follow Bob over on Facebook and Twitter below. Make sure you follow Bob, John, and Kyle on the Saints News Network, as we have news almost every hour this week covering the New Orleans Saints. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BT Boylan. You can follow the podcast at Bayou Blitz Pod. We'll have some more giveaways this off season, and looking forward to continuing to grow and interact with you. Until next Wednesday, remember to find peace, spread love, practice positivity. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Bayou Blitz podcast.